in this lecture we are going to be discuss about the basics of Cisco ISE. Okay, if you remember, we have deployed the ISE, but the ISE version is currently 3.0. It's not 3.1. Okay, so you can use this version ISE 3.0. Okay, this file, and the process will remain same to install it. And one more thing, like whenever you are going to be install the ISE, uh, I think that problem is with the file. If you are facing from some problem, so make sure you have this file here, right? 3.0. So in that file directly you must have this file. Maybe there can be some chances when you decrypt the file, sorry, when you extract the file, so there can be subfolders. So don't be, make sure there should not be any subfolder. So if main folder is this one, ISE 3.00, so file will be available directly in this folder, not inside with multiple folder. Okay, so make sure about that. And now I'm using here this one, and the interface 0 is connected with my net cloud. So net cloud is actually my management network, which we discussed earlier. And ISE have IP 101, so this is the ISE, right? So let me log out it. So this is kind of a GUI interface of the ISE. Okay, here we have to enter admin and the password of the ISE, and we have to be login. So firstly, when we are going to be login the ISE, so like it will ask you about the license or to add some Cisco Smart account with it. So if you don't have, you can skip those options. And right now we are with the base license of the ISE, and that base license is available for next 89 days. Okay. So till next 89 days, you can use almost all features of the product. But after that, you need to add the license of it. Okay. Or otherwise, you have to be like there are some snapshot options if you are using virtual machine. Right now, we are not using virtual machine. We are using the image inside the EVNG. So if you want to import the same image in the VMware like a virtual machine, so you can see like EV is virtual machine for me. So there is option. And what is that option? If you right click, you have option to take snapshot of the any machine. And what is the meaning of snapshot, guys? Snapshot is like you are saving the current status of the machine. Like I configured some initial configuration on the ISE, and later on I do the power of the device and create a snapshot, like take snapshot of it, right? So it will freeze that, it will create a state, so you can revert that device with that state. Like if you configure multiple configuration on ISE and you want to go to the initial state again, or you want to go to that particular state, so you can revert to that particular snapshot. Okay, but that option is all only in VM case. Okay, but if you are using any machine inside the EVNG, so we don't have that option. Okay, so we need to remove manually in that case. So first, whenever you will see, so this is kind of a dashboard of the device. So you will see some endpoints. So this endpoint is actually the network access endpoints, that is through the radius, and active endpoints. Okay, and now if you click here, so we are getting the multiple things like context, visibility about the endpoint, users, network, device, and applications which we are using, and operations where we will see the live log. So that means operations means I'm talking about here MNT. If you remember, the eyes have multiple personas. So normally we talk about three personas. So the first one is PAN, right? PAN is for administration. So administration is this one. This is the PAN. Okay. Policy administration node. And after that we have here policy. So these policies actually talk about PSN, policy service node. And operation is about your MNT, monitoring and troubleshooting, right? So in operation you will see, you will get the live logs, live session of radius protocol for network access, and TACACS logs will be visible here for the TACACS for the device administration, or you can see the device admin, right? And after that we can get like some troubleshooting tools, download the logs or debug the wizards. Okay, and you will see the things. And now if you want to configure something related to the administration or related any configuration of the device, so we have to move under the administration. So the firstly we can talk about like how we can manage this particular ISE, like how many users can log in this device. So we need to move to the administration, and here we have multiple options. So first of all we have system option. So under that you have deployment. Click here. So in deployment you will see you have here one node and that is ISE1, right? Because you installed this ISE. And if you remember, we have multiple deployment method like single node, uh, two node, right, four node, or fully. So right now I have only one appliance. So that is my Cisco ISE1. That is the host name of the ISE. And I configured one domain name. Suppose the domain is cisco.com. So this is my FQDN of this ISE. Okay. And this is the IP address of it, and the device type is identity service engine. Okay, and see the role is here standalone means like I'm using currently one node, so that's why it's standalone. And if we are using one node deployment, guys, so it have all the personas on here. So see, the administration is on, so that is my pan is enabled here, right? Monitoring MNT also here, so that means single box is active for pan, active for MNT, and also active for PSN, right? So this is on for all the three personas, okay, which we discussed earlier. So you can change the personas as per your requirement. You can make primary and secondary as per the deployment. You can make it primary, you can disable, okay. Like if you have multiple, in that case you can disable, but policy services remain enabled on everyone, okay. And we have also PX grid option that is by default disabled. If you click here, so PX grid enables information sharing between network device in real time and on demand. So that means if you have to be use multi-vendor devices for communication with ISE, so in that case we are using the PX grid platform exchange, okay. Now this is about the deployment of the device, so that we have only one node right now. If you have multiple, so in that case you can use. So if you see, ISE is here for all the three personas. Role is standalone, service is session and the profile filter, okay, and node is done and status is standalone. And after that you can add more, like if you have multiple secondary and all, okay. And now we have here licensing option. So licensing option, when we are going to be use license for virtualization. So right now the Cisco Smart licensing evaluation is for 89 days, okay. And this is the type of the product identifier, okay, the path code of the device, and here is the serial number, and we can register the device even, okay. Here is the token that you can use from the smart account if you have, and you can define the connection type, like what type of connection you want to use, HTTPS or proxy or the transparent gateway, okay, to onboard it. And later on it will show you the license which are enabled and how many license you have in consumption, right? And it will show you the compliance here, but right now it's showing we are not in the compliance. Why? Because we are using the 89 days period only, okay. Now if I talk about to manage this box, how we can manage this one, how I can create the users for it. So here I have more option, and under more option I have admin access. So what is the meaning of admin access? Admin access means, okay, the first of all it's talking about the authentication. That means how we can authenticate this particular ISE. So we are using just a password base, right? And what is the password policy? Password policy means like what type of password policy you want to use for this ISE to log in. So like for CLI and the GUI, I have minimum 4 characters for the password at least, okay. And you can even specify that what type of character you want to use, like admin name or it character in reverse order. So you can use that. Cisco or its character in reverse order if you want to use that, okay. And you can define here, okay, lowercase, uppercase, numeric character must be there, and password must be different from 3 previous passwords. So even you can define that also. And if admin password expires after 45 days, you can change that timer also, or you can uncheck that, right? So like if you want to use any one of them, you can use, or otherwise you can uncheck. But that is for more security. Okay, so there will be complex password, but for lab practice, we can avoid it. And now I can save it. So this is my password policy. This password policy is actually for the ISE itself. Okay. And after that, we have authorization. So remain, leave it. And we have here users, administrators, and under that we have admin user. So by default, we have admin user, which is like default admin user. And see, this is the super admin. What is the meaning of super admin, guys? Super admins means which have the full access of the ISE. Full access means it have all PSN, all personas access, right? And this is member of the, wait a minute, yeah, member of the super admin group, and user is admin. So if you want to see, there are multiple type of groups we have customization admin group, ERS admin, ERS operator, okay, elevated system admin, help desk admin, identity admin, right, MNT admin, right? But right now we have only one user from this one, right? Okay, so if you want to create your own, you can create. So suppose, let me show you, if I want to create my own user just for the monitoring purpose, right? So I can create a user admin, okay, and I can give the name is helpdesk, okay, and we can configure the password is like Cisco @123. So this is the password, re-enter the password, Cisco @123, okay. And after that we can define here the group, so it can be member of the particular group. So we have already here helpdesk admin group, right? And I can submit it. So now we have here user that is part of the helpdesk. So let me log out. Okay, so helpdesk Cisco @123. Wait a minute. Okay, so in helpdesk, see, uh, now we have only operations and work center. So in operations, we have only radius live logs and live session and the TACACS, okay, the other troubleshooting things and the reports. So we don't have access of, okay. And here we can see in work center also we have multiple options, but all options are just giving you the access of the operations. Like you can just check what going on. You can't configure anything, right? Is it clear? Okay, so let me re-log in with the actual user, so that how you can create to manage the ISE itself. So let me log in with the admin. So if you see the admin, we have entire access now again. If you click here, like we have operations, policy, admin, and the work center, right? Okay, guys, and so that how easily you can operate the ISE. Now next is how we can use the ISE for AAA configuration, guys. Okay, so what we are trying to do now, just a minute. Okay, administrator system. Okay, so we have also setting here, right? So now there is one more thing, guys. Okay, so here we are talking about the AAA, right? So in AAA we are starting with the basic one, right? So we are talking about here Cisco ISE version 3.0. So the first thing by default, TACACS is not enabled on ISE. So by default, TACACS is not enabled on ISE, guys. So we need to enable the ISE by ourselves. Okay. And how we can enable that? So the method is very easy. So what we need to do? We need to move to the work center. Okay. Under work center, we have here device administration, and under that we have setting, right? Wait a minute. Okay, not this one, my bad. This is for actually, okay, under administration, under the system, okay, we have deployment, and under that deployment, move to the ISE, and here is the one option. And what is that option, guys? So you can see this option, enable device admin service. So warning, TACACS Plus does not employ the latest encryption and authentication methodology due to the protocol restrictions. Okay, that is something error, but if you have to be check, make sure this option is enabled whenever you are going for the TACACS authentication. Okay, so the device administration service enables an enterprise to control and audit the configuration of its network device. So that should be the required, right? And after that, make sure save the configuration, right? So that means now officially TACACS Plus is enabled on the box, because if you remember, TACACS is a TCP based protocol which is using port number 45. So by default port number 40, sorry, yeah, 49, not 45, 49 is disabled. So we need to enable it using this option. Okay. Okay, and there are more features, like if you explore with time, so you will get more options here to use or to enable those. Okay. So now the first thing is we have to be enable here AAA. So in this, I'm going to be use here. We have here Cisco ISE connected with a switch, and here is the router. Okay. So now what we are trying to do, here is one IP address on this one, that is 192.168.216. It's 100, right? And ISE have 101 if you remember. So we need to make sure whenever R1 is going to be authenticate, or like if anyone is trying to log into the R1, so make sure R1 is always going to be authenticated with the AAA server. AAA server is ISE here, right? So we need to configure R1 with configuration. So what type of configuration is required on R1? So let's start with that, guys. So here is this router. So first of all, we need to enable the AAA on R3. Show IP interface brief. So IP is already configured. So make sure there is reachability before configuration. 216.101, and we have reachability. So the first thing, we need to enable the AAA configuration on the router. So what is the command? AAA new model is the command to enable AAA on the device. And in real scenarios, like you will see few things. And what are those, guys? Like you are going to be login this device using multiple method. What method those can be? Maybe for the first method you are using the console. Second method you are using the remote line VTY, right? So for console also this AAA is going to be work here, right? So you need to be make sure whenever someone is connecting with the console cable, so they can access it through without any maybe without any username and password locally, or maybe you want to configure local username and password, maybe your ISE is down. So at that time also device try to authenticate through the ISE, but if ISE is not reachable, you are not able to log in this device anymore. So there must be some alternate ways So that help you to log in the device, right? So that's why we will make sure through console you can log in the device, and through console it will not ask any AAA server, right? And we can use AAA server for line VTY. Okay. So the first rule I am going to be create for the line VT for line console, AAA authentication login. So like I am giving for console, so just I am giving here no auth, okay, and giving none. So what is the meaning of this command, guys? This command is actually asking for the login. Login means this login is related to all line VTY by default. It related to the console, VTY and aux as well. But where you are going to be applied that matters. So we are going to be apply only on console. Okay. So that is the name. Name is no auth here. Okay. So I'm saying AAA authentication. Authentication for login. Login to the device, and that should be none. None means nothing. Okay, and that nothing is actually for line console for me. So here authentication, no, it's just a name, it can be anything. So the main purpose is here, suppose there is a scenario, you have configured the router successfully for AAA configuration, right? So suppose now you are trying to take remote of the router, maybe using the telnet or using the SSH. So at that time, router always try to reach to the AAA server. Okay, this user is trying to access me, please authenticate. But suppose because of some problem in the network, maybe the ISE is down. So during that time, you are not able to access the device, right? Are you getting my point? But maybe you have to do some changes or you have to do some troubleshooting. So you need to make sure there must be some way to access this device in case of ISE is not reachable. So you can access the device through the console, but console also going to be asked the username and the password, and maybe it's also going to be accessed through the ISE in that case. So during that you will make sure console access is like physical access of the box, and physical access of the box is always to like particular users or particular administration only, right? Like no one can enter in your data center, or no one can enter to the device where device is located, okay, in mini data center. So that means you can have at least local console username and password in that case. So right now I don't want any username and password for console. So what I did, I enabled AAA authentication rule for login to console, okay, and I configured none means nothing. Nothing means it will not going to be asked any username and password. No ask for user and password. So that is the meaning of none here, and that I'm trying to apply on my line console. So that means if anyone try to enter on the router through the console, they can log in the device without asking the username and password or without authentication through the router. Okay. So now let's configure it. Login, authentication, and the name. Let me copy it from here. Okay. So that means now through console, you can directly log in the device without any username and password. But even you can configure here local. Instead of none, there is one more option, local. Local means you can define the local username and password. Like using the same command, AAA authentication, login, like I can configure local auth, and I'm asking for local here. So you can use even this command. So in that command, it will ask for local username and password because I defined here word local. So I can use here username, admin, okay, privilege 15, password is post Cisco, right? So this time I can apply on my line console 0, login. You can configure only one, authentication rule here. So if I configure local auth, it will remove the previous one. It will remove the, just let me show you. It must not be there, but if it's there, I need to remove it. Okay. Line, console. Wait a minute, do show run pipe section. Console. Show run pipe section. Line. Uh, okay. See, right? So that means now you can authenticate the device through the local credentials. Okay, so you have options. So make sure that device will not lock means you don't have any way to log in the device. Okay, so that's why we use these methods. Okay, so now if these two options are clear to everyone, like none means it will not ask anything, and local means it will ask the local username and password, but make sure don't forget to configure username and the password, right? Exit. See, it's asking about username and the password. If you have username and password, you will able to enter the device, otherwise not. Wait a minute. Okay, yeah, I have actually privilege level 15. That's why I entered here, right? And now I am moving with the AAA configuration for the device. And what is that command, guys? Login. I can define a group name. Group name can be like ISE. Okay, this is just a name. And I need to define the group is TACACS for me. So that means now if anyone is trying to log into the device, login, that means we are talking about authentication, login, okay. So it will go through the TACACS now. It will use the TACACS protocol, right? And we need to tell about the TACACS server. Who is the TACACS server? Because I enabled authentication on the device, but still not configured the server, because R3 must know who is the server. So I need to configure TACACS server, give a name here, I guess. Yeah, TACACS server, give a name. Okay, name can be anything. Okay, like ICE. Okay, and now we need to define here key. So this key must be same on both end. And address, what is the address? IPv for address, guys. IP for address is 192.168.216.101. So this is IP address of my AAA server. Okay, and exit. So we configured here this configuration. So in this, I am going to be login through this IS group for TACACS, and I have here server, and the server is TACACS one, okay, with key and this IP address, right? But till now, this is not applied on your any console or any line VTY. So I need to apply on my line VTY transport input all, and here we need to use login authentication. And what is the name of the group? Name of the group is ICE. Here is the group name, ICE. Okay, so this is the limited configuration. So I just configured the device only for authentication. So right now just we are trying to do the authentication, guys. Okay, so I'm just trying to use authentication on R1 through the ICE. Okay, and I configured everything, and now we have here login on the device, right? So if you see, we configured on R3, but on server end we have not any configuration. Server still don't know about the router, right? Like who is the router. So there must be entry on server as well about router and about username and the password and the groups as well, right? So these configuration is required. So just we did one-sided configuration, and that is section AAA and TACACS and line VTY. See, so we did here AAA configuration. We configured under the line VTY, right? and this is command to enable the AAA on the device. So we did just minimal configuration on R1, R3. So this minimal configuration have just for authentication, not for authorization now. And next point is to configure the configuration on ISE. So the configuration is very simple. So we can categorize the configuration in multiple steps. And what are the steps, guys? Okay, before that, I must talk about one command, guys. AAA, authentication, login, default, local. So there is one command. Maybe you will see multiple times. So what is the meaning of that command? So if you see this command, guys, what is the meaning of this command? So here is one word that is default. What is the word here? Default. So default meaning here, this is for all the lines of device. What is the meaning of all the lines of the device, guys? Here they are talking to configure on all the lines. Lines means console, okay? VTY, and even your aux that is not in use now, okay? We are only using console and line VTY. So these are the all lines. So that means my AAA authentication process is going to be enabled all on all lines. On my console port of the device, on line VTY of the device, and even on the aux port of the device. And after that, you can define the word is define where is your database, where is your server. So if their word is local here, local means it's indicating the local username and the password, right? If I'm going to use here TACACS or something, so that means it's asking about the TACACS server. So it will look for the TACACS for all the line consoles, right? So that's why we specify here name or a group number, right? So like I can define a name here. So that should not be indicating for all line VTY. Because if I'm giving here this command, suppose I have this command and I'm using here word ISE, right? So that means this time we are indicating to a particular group, and the group name is ISE here, right? And I'm using here TACACS plus, right? So TACACS plus means we are talking about the TACACS protocol for this group, and we can specify this group on particular line. Line means I can specify by myself. Maybe I want to use on line VTY this time, right? So under that we have AAA authentication and the name is I. So that means if you apply the default and even you have not configured this command, so in that case also this default will apply on the all lines, okay? So that's why we specify the group and that we apply on the line where we want AAA authentication. Maybe on console we don't want, on line VTY we want, so that time we configure it, right? Is it clear to everyone? Okay, so let's configure the device as well, the ISE. Okay, so this configuration is on your device end, and the next what we have to do or what sequence can be there. So the sequence is very easy. So on ISE, first of all we need to create the user and user group, right? So like we need to configure user, maybe user is admin, okay, or admin is my group. So under that group I can configure my username admin, right? And I can configure more group, like one group is my help desk, okay, and under that I can configure here one user is help desk one, okay. So that how we create the group and the users inside it. So this is the first step, guys, okay, which we need to define, like where are the users. So actually, if you move on the ISE, we have multiple options. Okay, let me show you. Under the work group, okay, so under the work group, you will see we have device administration, and under that we have multiple options. So the first option is here, identities. Identities means they are asking about here user and the groups, user and the password, right? After that, those user can be part of a specific group. Maybe I have 10 users, those are part of admin group, helpdesk group, okay, employee group, or any group. And after that, these are locally on the ISE itself. These are locally on the ISE, guys, okay. And if I talk about external ID resources, what is the meaning of external ID resources? So in future, maybe we don't want to configure all users on ISE. We want to use some external server, like I want to use some Active Directory server or like a LDAP server, right? So that time we integrate the ISE with external resources, okay? So that is actually under your identities. So and identity can be internal or external. Identities can be internal or external, right? If you click under the identity, so you will see, wait a minute, this is network access user. Yeah, and we have here group. So we have here two type of group. So endpoint identity groups are actually for radius, for network access, and user identity groups are for TACACS. Even you can use for radius these also. That is not the point. But I'm talking about user identity group actually used for device administration. Okay, and endpoint identity groups are actually used for network access. So currently we are trying to use the device for remote access. Okay, so the first of all, I'm going to be create the user, or I can create a group first. Okay, so you have to be create user identity group. If you see, we have all accounts, employee, okay, and these are the default. I can create my own. So first of all, I want to create like admin group. Okay, so this is the name, or you can give the description, submit it. So you can see the admin group is here, and second we can create the help desk group. Okay, and submit. Now we have two groups, admin and the help desk. Now I need to create the user. So users are under the identities. So move to the identities. So we are under workstation and device administration. So don't forget this tab. Okay, and now I need to create the user. Here is admin user. Okay, that is admin user, and status is enable. You can configure email. See, the password type is your internal users or all AD user you can define, right? Like all AD user you can define if you want, but all AD user means they are looking for external users. So I will configure internal. Just a minute. Okay, wait a minute, I need to change it like admin one, because admin is the default one. That's why I'm not getting the option. Now I have options. So okay, so make it admin one or change it to internal and external, then you have option here. So the first option is here to generate the password. You can generate the password here by yourself. Okay, so it will give you this type of password, but maybe this will be complex for you, or maybe you can't remember. Okay, so that is depend on you how you want to configure. So I will configure my own password, Cisco @123, Cisco @123. So that is also case sensitive, so make sure accordingly you need to configure, or otherwise you can change under the settings the username and the password also, like the criteria. Okay, and enable password is not required this time, leave it. After that, we have option here to select the user group, and select the user group is admin, right? And below you have option to submit. So now we have here admin one user, which is part of the admin group. Okay, and now I can I have configured user and the admin, so I can configure here now. Okay, I will configure that user later, so leave it. We don't want to use or move to the next one. So we configured username and the password, right? After username and the password, we need to define the policy. Policy means where devices are going through the policy, because you need to define the criteria, how they are going to be pass the things, right? So the first we define the user and the groups, and the second is we need to check the policy. So we have even the default policy guys here, okay? So under the default policy, first we have authentication policy. Which policy do we have? Authentication. After that we have authorization, okay? So right now authorization we are not using. So under the authentication policy, we need to check they are currently using here some uh, protocols, like which protocols they are going to be used and which users they are going to be used for authentication purpose, right? Where are the users are from external or for internal, or those are from all external and internal, right? Now let's come to check. So we have here option. Okay, the one more thing I need to tell you before this policy guys. So this is, you can say, the point number 3. This is point number 3. So there is one more point I forget to tell you. What is the point number 2? Network resources. Network resources means we need to add the router. So we need to add here router, right? So router 3 must be part of it, because if server don't know about the router, how this is going to be check policy in the reference of R3, right? So we need to tell about the device, because on device we already configured the username and the password, right? We defined here already server. See, we have here already TACACS information, right? So similar we need to define on ISE as well, and here we have network and resources just next to external identity service. So external identity service means if you want to use some external server, those have user database, so you can add from here like LDAP or add any other device, which we will see later. So right now we need to add the network resources, and under that I will add my router, and here we have R3, and we need to give the IP address of it guys, okay? So IP must be reachable, which we already checked, and here you can give IP and the slash value, and after that, okay, just leave the details, and here we need to check for the TACACS. I need to share about the password is Cisco, so this is my password, okay, and just submit it. So that how we added the information of the device here, right? Okay, after that we move with the policy elements, which is here. So under policy element guys, we have options, so we can check the result here, and allowed protocols actually, not in the result. Wait, network conditions. Okay, actually in policy element we define the few parameters, but right now we are not looking for anything. But there is one thing that you need to know about the allow protocol, because in policy the devices are using some protocol to make communication between the device and the server through the TACACS. So if you see, by default we have default device admin, right? So in default admin, we have 3 protocols. We have PAP, CHAP, and MS CHAP. So right now, just you can understand these protocols are used between router to server for communication purpose. So whenever R1 try to communicate using the TACACS. So TACACS is the like protocol which is transporting the packet, right? But internally they are using a PAP, or they are using a CHAP or MS CHAP protocol, right? For the communication. So by default they are using PAP protocol, guys. So make sure this one is enabled. This one is enabled for the communication. So this is already enabled, you no need to worry about that. But if you want to change the protocol in future, you can use any one of them. Okay, those are also check-in. So just okay. So the next one is, here is the option device admin policy set, or under that you can see we have default policy by default, right? So under default policy I am going to be scroll down. So under the default policy I have authentication policy and authorization policy, the last one. Okay, leave the local and the global one. So in authentication, if I check it, so I have here one default rule. And what is that default rule? That means it's going to, this is going to be check, the condition is not defined here, so condition can be anything. So this is going to be check all user ID store. All user ID store means if any user try to come, so it will check both database. It's going to be check internal database which is on ISE, and also it's going to be check the external database, guys. So external right now we don't have, so it's going to be check internal one, right? Or you can change it if you want to change. Suppose you want to change here internal user, guest user, all endpoints. Okay, and even we have options. So what are the options? See, if the user is not part of it, see, if user is coming here, if authentication fail, user will be dropped, right? And the second is if user is not found, that also dropped. And third one is if process fails, that will also drop. So that means authentication fail means user will not able to log in. So that is the meaning of this option here. So that you now need to change here. Okay, so you have default rule, but if you want to change or you want to create your own rule, so what you can do, here you have option above the default plus option, so use that one. And here is authentication rule one. Okay, condition is not required, just leave it. And we are using the internal users, because right now we have internal database. Or you can use all users ID stores, or you can define any role, right? Only just active and directory or deny access. Okay, that is in your hand. So just use the internal users for now. Okay, because we are just talking about the authentication rule. And now just save it. Wait a minute, rule condition is not properly configured for rule. Okay, I think condition is also required here. Just let me check. So we need to define the condition. So like what we are trying to be use here, EAP MS chap, EAP L chap, but actually we are using here PAP. Okay, just a minute. What we can do? Just on the page. Okay. Okay, let me delete it. We can use the default one also. So just delete it. Because we are not using the condition, so I can change here internal user. Okay, for me. And just save this time it. So we have saved the policy. And authorization, currently we are not using any authorization. So like by default it have deny all, right? So just save it. Okay. Okay, so we have now policy. So if you click, we have here policy. and an authentication policy we change here to internal users, right? So that is the only change. So right now device is also added with it. So how we can try to check? So firstly we can try with the router itself on R3. Wait a minute, log in with the username and the password. Okay, so now just test it. Wait a minute, what is the command? AAA and authentication. Just a minute. No, wait a minute. This is not the command. Okay, I can try from somewhere else. I can try with my laptop. So I'm trying to take telnet of it. 192.168.216. 100, right? Authentication failed. Give me a minute. We need to check the logs. What's the problem? Operations, TACACS. Okay. So click here. Okay. Received TACACS plus packet from a unknown network device or a AAA client. Wait a minute. Maybe I configured the wrong configuration. Work center, network resources. What is the IP? Yeah, the IP is wrong. It's 100 actually. It's not 101. Okay. So I saved it. So you can check here and you will see the error code. See what is the reason? So attempt failed TACACS request dropped. Why? The received TACACS plus packet is from unknown network device. So if we have added the IP, so this is the IP address of the device and I added 101 which is the IP of ISE itself by mistake. Okay, and this is the code. That code help you to search what is the problem, right? And now again let me log in the device. 216 100. Okay, R3, save it, save it. Okay, see the username is here, admin, and password is Cisco if I'm trying. So I tried with the username and the password, which is like local username password of router, and that's why authentication is failed. If you see again, move to the logs, operations, and the logs. So this time we have here, see the message is now different. Identity is invalid. So that means the problem is with your username and the password. See, request type is authentication, status is fail, right? And this is okay key. The message is authentication failed. And if you scroll, authentication failed, subject not found in applicable identity store. So that means whatever username password you have used, that is not located in the database of the device, and this is the IP address of the remote, the IP who tried to log in the device. Okay, and see the protocol, what protocol they are using here. The protocol they are using here is, okay, right now this is not okay. Here is the method. So method is the PAP right now. Okay, and the database is only we have, that is internal user, and that is kind of a steps. So start TACACS authentication, and evaluating policy group and service policy, return TACACS authentication reply, right? After that, identity policy and check the internal users, and TACACS Plus will use the password prompt from the global TACACS configuration, right? Return TACACS authentication reply, and like these are the packets. If you remember, the TACACS authentication continue reject. Why? Because of the wrong username and the password. The user is not found in the internal user identity store. So that is the reason, right? So what username password do we have here? If you remember, work center, and here is the identity user. So we have admin one, and I remember it's capital C Cisco at 123. Something is that password. So let me log in again. R3 admin one, capital C Cisco at the rate 123. So now I tried here. Wait a minute. It's admin one, capital C Cisco exclamation 123. Let me change the password. I don't remember actually. Add it at the rate 123 at the rate 123. Okay, I changed it and save it. Okay, password cannot be set. Okay, let me change it. CCI at the rate 123, capital C CCI at the rate 123. Because password policy is still here, so admin one, capital C CCI at the rate 123. Okay, wait a minute. What's the problem? Operations. Okay, we have username and the password. They have matched here. Authentication is failed. The reason is selected cell profile is deny access. Okay, see. So here device is trying to do authorization also. Like the username is admin one, that is correct, but see the selected authorization profile deny all cell profile. So by default device is trying to do authentication, because once device is login, right now I can't show you here, just a minute, I need to check one command. So let me check it from here. Test AAA group TACACS username and password is, wait a minute, incomplete command. Okay, there is a new code, so that is required. Wait a minute, sending password user rejected. uh, is it legacy? Test to server user authentication was rejected by the server. Sending password user rejected. Why? The reason can be only, let me try to show you. So I need to make here one change. So move to the policy because they are also going to be do authorization. Okay. And in authorization, right now you can change the rule or you can make here change instead of deny. Okay, here is the deny actually. Here I need to make, wait a minute. We don't have more options actually. Hmm. So this is the problem here. We need to configure authorization rule as well. So that is the only one option for now. Okay, so we can avoid it. So let me configure here rule as well, guys. Okay. So we have device already here and we did the authentication. So username is passing here. So what I need to do here, I need to configure one uh, under the result. We have here profiles, right? So we have here, see, so that is deny everything, deny all cell profiles, default cell profile, right? So if I'm going to be edit it, okay, it's not update, and see, it will deny everything, all the commands. So what I'm going to be do, I need to configure here one command set so that permits all commands, and let me add here permit a minute, deny. So I check this one, permit any command that is not listed below. So I do deny show version, right? Or you can say, just let me configure show version. So accept this command, they are going to be show version. What's wrong with it? Show IP interface brief, enter invalid character. Uh, just a minute, what's the problem here? Permit. router EASERP. Okay, so I do now. So let me try this one. I configured here permit all the commands. Okay, so now I need to use this one here, default. So under the authorization, click here, rules, select the command list, permit everything, right? And default cell profile. Okay, so that means it will like allow, okay, condition is not properly configured. Delete this rule and remove this one, permit all the commands, and cell profile is also default one. Okay, so change it. So let me try this time. It must work. See, the user is successfully authenticated. So this time ICE is going to be authenticate and authorize. Normally the previous version, as I remember, don't do authentication and authorization at same time. But this is performing here because once you try to log in the device, it will ask for authorization also at the same time, right? Like if I'm trying here this time, admin1 CCI at the rate 123. See, we are getting now access of it, right? So like enable command is not configured and the error is in authentication. The reason is we have not configured for commands the authorization actually. So we have just authentication. If you want to see the logins and the logs of the device, and here we can check under the operations and the live logs. So just okay, see, click here, close. See, this time authentication is passed, right? And it's checking authentication policy is the default policy and selected authorization profile is the default cell profile. So default cell profile have all the commands access right now. So that is the reason. If you select only default cell profile, that is denied by default, but you can select it, right? So authentication is passed, that is succeed this time. So that is the easiest way to configure the device and authenticate it. Try. So after this, we can try the multiple users, okay, with multiple options. So right now we have just tried to authenticate the device, right? So now what I'm trying to do this time, I want to authenticate, authentication and authorization. We want these two things together now, right? So firstly, we need to configure on R3 for authorization. So on R3, we need to enable AAA for authorization also, okay? AAA authorization. So we need to define authorization for exact actually. Exact means to access the privilege level of the device, right? So for that we need to configure it. And similar on ISE also I need to define the command. So firstly configure on the router, okay? So what we need to configure here? We need to enable AAA authorization exact and define here one rule. So rule is like for privilege, right? And we can define the group we also want through the TACACS. And now that thing we need to define under the line VTY. And here is authorization for exact and for my privilege. So that how we have to be apply. So that means for configuration for the commands also we want to access the device through the TACACS. Okay. And now we need to define policy under the ISE. So the policy remains very simple, guys. So in policy, what we need to try to do? So under the policy, firstly, we need to define for authentication. Like I need to define the allow protocols. So allow protocols, already I told you we are using like PAP by default. We can use CHAP as well and MS CHAP as well. That is with your TACACS packet. Okay. So those are used between the router and the AAA server. So we need to make sure about that. After that, I have here one option is related to the cell. So cell means I need to define the privilege level to the device. I need to define the privilege level. Like the privilege level, maybe one cell have privilege level of 15 and other cell have privilege level of 1 only. Okay. And after that we can define the command sets, but this time that is not required. Just I'm trying to give full access and half access of it. Okay. So these things are required now for authorization, and authentication remains same. Okay. So the firstly, I need to configure one more user here. So under the work group identities, so I need to configure one more user. The user is helpdesk. Okay. And here we need to configure the password. Capital C CCI at the rate 123, capital C CCI at the rate 123. Okay. And now we can define here part of the group, and the group is here helpdesk. So I just create one user here, right? User groups are already here. If you remember, we have admin group and we have helpdesk group. Okay. And now next, the network device is already here, the network resource. And now policy element. So under the policy element, I need to check the result. So we have already protocols, no problem. So I need to configure the profile. So these are the cell profiles, guys. So the first cell profile I'm going to be create for admin. That is admin cell profile. And under that, see the default privilege level. What is the default privilege level? So like I'm defining here level 15 and the max also 15. Okay. And now I need to make here submit. So this is for admin. Okay. Similar, I need to configure for helpdesk. And here I want to use the default is like privilege level 1, and the maximum I can define 15, but I can define username and the password for that. Okay. And make it submit. Okay. So we have here helpdesk and admin. So one more thing, we need to define here enable password and authentication for enable password, that I will show you later. Okay. So these are required. So now we can move under the device admin policy. So here we have policy. Authentication is already there. So I'm talking about just authorization this time. So that this default one, let me remove this one again to deny all the commands. And this one also to deny all the cell commands. Okay. I need to create here one rule. So that is the authorization rule. Actually, the condition is required here. So which option we need to use? So we are using the devices. Okay. All device type. Okay. Select all device type equal to device type, all device type. Okay. Just save it. Make this condition. And wait a minute. Save to the new library. Give a name. Okay. So we are using a default one and use it. So this is the condition here. Okay, so I need to define the condition. I can define two conditions or two rules. So one I can define for admin. Okay, and under that I need to define my commands. Wait a minute, commands are not required, the permit all commands. And here is the admin shell. So we need to save even without the commands. So commands are not mandatory, because if I'm giving you the full access, so that command is not mandatory. So similar, I need to configure one more, so you can configure below it. So that is for helpdesk, right? So under helpdesk, default one, this is the default one we can match here. Okay, so default one have, actually if you see, we just define the device type and all type of device we are talking about. That is the only one thing. And now in helpdesk I can select the cell directly, so that is, this is the cell. So admin have privilege level 15 and helpdesk have level 1 by default, but it can move to the 15, but we need to authenticate as well your enable password in that case. Okay, so just try to save this, and users are already authenticated here. If you see, that is the internal users. Okay, and if those are not going to be matched, it will deny the commands. Okay, and just save it. So we saved the configuration here, guys, and now let me try to log in the device. So I'm on R3. If I'm using here user1 admin, password is cci@123. So see, this time we are directly moving to the privilege 15. We are moving to the privilege 15, right? And if you see the logs, move to the operation, live logs. So click here this time. See, authorization is also passed this time, right? There are two logs actually, one for authentication, one for authorization, right? Authentication is authorization, we don't have policy, but we have the admin one, authorization. Authentication policy is already the default one, which is matched. And here you can see authorization also pass, and we are using device administration, authorization succeed. Okay, the authorization policy name is admin and the cell profile name is admin cell, so which we configured, if you remember, right? Okay, and similar, if I'm trying with the other user, let me make the duplicate session of it. And helpdesk, is it helpdesk or helpdesk one only? Let me check my user, work group, device administrator, and under that we have identities. So here is helpdesk one actually, helpdesk one. Password is same for both, so easily we can remember. Okay, wait a minute, because we have given level 15 also. That is the reason. Just a minute, we need to check why it's matching with the operations logs. So helpdesk is also matching with the admin one. See, that is the problem. So what I need to do, we need to specify a different policy in that case, because it's going to be matched with the same policy. That is the reason. So let me check device admin policy. Okay, we have default policy. So under that, authentication and authorization, authentication is here, and okay, just a minute. Close. Okay, we have authentication here. Authentication can be anyone, internal user, right? And the first, those are going to be matched with the default. Okay, device type. Actually, we need to define here such conditions. Those are according to the user group. So here I need to define the identity groups actually. So if I define the identity group, and that is for which identity group? Admin. So we need to make sure the condition. So I need to change the condition here, guys. So let me save it. Okay. So give me the name is admin group. The reason is uh okay, name can't be empty. Okay, save in the default one. If you edit, you will see we are talking about the internal users identity group. I match the admin group, right? Save it and save inside it for the default one. So default one, this admin have one condition. And what is the condition in authorization? So if you click here, you will see if anyone is coming from admin group, so I specified according to the users, so those are only going to be matched with this policy. Those have admin shell, right? If anyone is coming here, so don't make it device type, make it user basis identity groups, and equal to, not the description, my bad, this must be the identity group name. Okay, and what is the name? User group admin, and here is the helpdesk. So we are talking about here helpdesk, right? Last time what I tried, identity group. So here is the helpdesk. Okay, and just save it. Condition name, give the name is helpdesk. Save it and use it. See, we have helpdesk here, and here we have admin group name, okay, equal to user admin. So these are the conditions. So if any user is coming, so we have default policy for users, and those are the internal users. So if any user is coming, that will pass with authentication. But what about authorization? So in authorization, I need to keep both separate. So if anyone is matching with this one, so that is only from the admin group, so which is only admin one user. And if admin one user is not here, which is not part of the admin group, so that should be matched with the helpdesk. So the helpdesk have here helpdesk group in that case, right? So accordingly they will get here privilege levels, guys. So admin will get admin cell access, and helpdesk will get helpdesk cell access, right? And otherwise they will not get anything. So this is the difference. So save it, and now let me retry. Exit again. Okay, make it duplicate. Helpdesk one, password is CCI at the rate 123. So see, this time we are not getting full access. If you see the privilege level, even the command, okay, we have privilege level 1 this time. And if you try to check the logs, uh, operations, live logs. So see, helpdesk is here, authorization, and we have default helpdesk this time. And for admin, we have default one, right? Okay, this was the last time for helpdesk, but this time you can see we are getting here helpdesk authorization policy. So we need to specify, or we need to make a condition. So condition is we need to match the user group. So that's why we created the user group. So you can separately define under the policy. So is it clear to everyone?